Hello, Chem 143 students. I'm going to do a lecture involving titrations of acids and bases, reviewing what we did before we went on break. We looked at the titrations of strong acids with strong bases. So we looked at a complete example, and we saw the different parts of the titration curve, and we also calculated pH values and concentrations of relevant species. Now we looked at examples, and I was talking to you about how to use the pH meter during a titration, and explain the different parts of the curve. We've already done this. I'm just showing you what we've done before. And there are 4 regions of the titration curve: A, B, C, and D. And A is before you add any base to the acid, and the region B is after you add a drop or an ml of the base, and or it could be anywhere from adding a drop or ml of a base to adding a few ml of the base, but clearly it should be before the before the equivalence point. So that's region B. And then region C, this is where you've reached the equivalence point, and then you add excess of the sodium hydroxide, and that's region D. So you may want to look at your notes and see how we did the initial calculations of the pH in the 4 regions of the titration curve. So I'm not going to go over that. I just wanted to show you what we have done so far. The next step will be this, and we are going to look at the titration of a weak acid versus a strong base, and then we're going to look at a weak base versus a strong acid. So this is the next section, and we're going to do similar calculations like we did before with a strong acid and a strong base. So first we are going to look at a weak acid versus a strong base, and then a weak base titration versus a strong acid. So these are 2 different types of titration. They're similar because you have a weak acid in one case and a weak base in another case, but there will be differences in how you calculate the pH. So the first case that we are going to look at is the titration of a weak acid with a strong base. So here again you have the 4 regions. Initial pH, and then a region before the equivalence point, what happens at the equivalence point, and what happens way past the equivalence point. So we're going to do calculations for each of these regions like we did for the first titration type.